Om Gyana Timirandasya Janangana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpa Tribhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Today, we're going to read and discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 74, verses 31 to 34. And I'm going to just read the translation until verse 33. And then we'll do the Sanskrit. Okay? Shishupal said, the statement of the Vedas that time is the statement of the Vedas that time is the unavoidable controller of all has indeed been proven true. Since the intelligence of wise elders has now become diverted by the words of a mere boy. O leaders of the assembly, you know best who is a fit candidate for being honored. Therefore, you should not heed the words of a child when he claims that Krishna deserves to be worshipped. Verses 33, 34. Tapo vidyavrata dharan yana vata kalmasan paramarshin brahmanishta lokapailaischa pujitan sadapatin natikramya gopala kulapamasha sanaha yatakaka purodasham saparyam katamarhati. Translation. How can you pass over the exalted members of this assembly, topmost sages, dedicated to the absolute truth, endowed with powers of austerity, divine insight, and strict adherence to severe vows, sanctified by knowledge and worshipped even by the rulers of the universe? How does this cowherd boy, the disgrace of his family, deserve your worship, any more than a crow deserves to eat the sacred Purudasha rice cake? Purport. The great commentator Sridhar Swami has analyzed Shishupal's words as follows. The term Gopala means not only cowherd, but also protector of the Vedas and the earth. Similarly, Kula Pamsana has a double meaning. Shishupal intended it to mean the disgrace of his family, which is its meaning when divided as above, but the word may also be analyzed as kulapam amsana, giving it a totally different meaning. Kulapam indicates those who prattle with crooked words contrary to the Vedas, and angsana, derived from the verb amsayati, means destroyer. In other words, he was praising Lord Krishna as he who vanquishes all misguided and frivolous speculations about the nature of truth. Similarly, Shishupal wanted to compare Lord Krishna to a crow with the words yata kaka. Those words may also be divided yata akaka. In that case, according to Srila Sridhar Swami, the words kaka is a combination of ka and aka, which indicate material happiness and misery. Thus, Lord Krishna is a kaka in the sense that he is beyond all material misery and happiness, being on the pure transcendental platform. Finally, Shishupal was right in saying the Lord Krishna does not deserve merely the Purudasha rice cake offered to the lesser demigods as a substitute for the heavenly beverage soma. In fact, Lord Krishna deserves to receive everything that, excuse me. Lord Krishna deserves to receive everything that we possess, since he is the ultimate proprietor of everything, including ourselves. Thus, we should give Lord Krishna our life and soul, not merely a ritualistic offering of rice cakes. So this is the chapter about Shishupal uh, and his words of hmm, seemingly criticism. So they were deciding, sorry, noise. They were deciding who to worship, right? In this sacrifice. And it was decided that Lord Krishna, being the supreme personality of Godhead, should be worshipped. And everyone agreed, except Shishupal. And he tolerated the glorification and the worship of Krishna for just a short amount of time before he became completely envious and started to brim over with uh, hate and spewing out seemingly um, offensive words. So, as you see here, Sridhar Swami has explained how even though Shishupal was speaking like all these horrible things about Krishna, if we really look at the Sanskrit, we can break up the words in different ways to see that actually it was a glorification of Krishna. Um, like I thought it was interesting how Shishupal was trying to say he deserves just these rice cakes that the crows eat. But actually, if you look at the Sanskrit in a different way, it means actually he doesn't deserve just like he deserves more than this rice cake. He deserves the heavenly beverage soma. So it's one of these interesting things that even though it seems like Shishupal was criticizing that, actually, if you look at it a different way, he was actually glorifying. And we'll see later in the chapter that Krishna actually blesses Shishupal instead of curses him. Now, it's hard to understand blasphemy in this way because we read this and it sounds horrible, like to us. You know, all these verses we just read today was just him criticizing Krishna. But that's why we need guru when we read Shastra. And so now we have Sridhar Swami as guru or sadhu to explain to us what this means and how to see it in the correct light from a different perspective. And in this way, we can actually see, okay, like even though this is horrible, it's in the middle of this like very like it seems like it's horrible at least. In the middle of this whole assembly, there's all these people there from all around the world, and they're just having to tolerate him speaking poorly of Krishna, and people even left during that time. They covered their ears. They did not want to hear it because a devotee does not want to hear blasphemy, particularly of another devotee, but especially not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and that's actually one of one of the methods Prabhupada recommends. It's either you what was it? I think it's either you run away, you fight them, or you cut their tongue out. And what I mean by fight them is like you debate them, like you defeat them in debate. Or you cut their tongue. Well, I don't recommend that one, but um but yeah, one of them is to leave. And so a lot of people were following that method of avoiding blasphemy, hearing blasphemy. Because actually hearing blasphemy is can really hurt us. Um, it's if it's ever happened to you, you'll know that feeling. You start to feel anxious, you start to feel like itchy under your skin and you want to get out of there, but I don't know, if someone like me, I always struggle with just like because I'm sort of a people pleaser. So I don't like to be rude and like run away, but at the same time I'm like tolerating rudeness. I don't know. It's one of those weird things, but I've over the years learned that I can like act like someone's calling me or something like that and try and get out of there. So or you defeat them, and I've it depends on my position in like my relationship with the person if I would would do that, would argue against that, or I would say something. And I have done that before, but for me it's like it depends on my relationship with that person. Is it even worth it? And a lot of times it's not worth it, so you just like leave. So um so yeah, so people were doing this. And but a lot of people were staying and wanted to see what would happen. And some people wanted to actually come after Kamsa and kill him. But Lord Krishna stopped them. And we're gonna read that a little later. I don't want to ruin anything, but um maybe we all know the story. I have no idea. But basically Krishna saves the day for everybody in a sense. And even Shishupal, who's a blasphemer, gets salvation. And actually, this is one of the beautiful things about Shastra is every quote unquote bad person or evil person in the Shastra, even they get mercy. And this is, I mean, I don't know about you, but some of the most beautiful stories, movies, books, whatever it may be, are stories that show a change of heart. And when the bad guy in the tale actually becomes a good guy. I think Star Wars is a great example. Everyone knows Star Wars, right? That Anakin Skywalker was the chosen one to bring balance to the Force, but he ultimately went evil. Um, and his son, Luke Skywalker, had faith that he had good in him. And at the end of the day, when they're, I don't want to get too into it, but like they were in the Death Star and they were fighting, and the Emperor was shocking Luke to death. Darth Vader picked the Emperor up and threw him down this big, I guess it was like a space tube. Like, it's always funny in all these movies. There's always impractical architectural arrangement that there is a huge drop and oftentimes no railing. So it's always a funny thing whenever I see that. I'm like, who would even do this? Like, it's just a hazard. But anyway, this wouldn't pass code. But anyway, they would he threw him over, um, and he died. And then at the end, uh, when Darth Vader actually was also shocked himself during this, he sacrificed himself, um, and he was dying because he was being held he was being held together basically alive because of a machinery. He had his body had been largely destroyed in a previous fight, and yeah, he was like mostly machine, like to a large degree. And so when he got shocked, that machine started to dysfunction, and there was really no way to save him because the Death Star was blown up, and so they were about to get on a ship to get out of there, but he said, "No, I'm not going to live." But he said, "You were right about me," and so that was a. I remember I grew up. That was my favorite movie. So, like watching that, it was always so amazing to see like even the most evil person hell bent on torturing the universe and didn't care about killing people, even his own people, and they could also turn from the dark side. So it's the same in Krishna Lila too. And like even George Lucas has admitted that he was influenced by the Vedas and and Eastern tales. Um, and a lot of the philosophical concepts or even the story concepts come from like Ramayana and the Vedas and other Buddhist traditions and whatnot. Um, so obviously there are so many connections to world literature through Vedas, but um, the point is that there's always hope for every living entity because we are all part of Krishna. We are all actually intrinsically, we are Satchidananda. We are full of eternality, knowledge, and bliss. Every single one. Even the worst people in this world are actually that. They are actually pure spirit soul. And one of my meditations lately, um, is being able to see that and being able to respect people on that level and to relate with people on that level, which is the most powerful thing. It's amazing how many friends you can make and how many people will learn to respect and love you if you treat them that way, because you show them love and respect first through that. And you could have totally different background in life, totally different opinions, values even, and you can still show them love and compassion and respect. And especially in this day and age when the media tries to put people against each other and when there's arguments about almost everything, political or whatever, and people hate each other just for differences of opinion. And I think it's a great practice for us to be different, us who follow Bhakti Yoga to be different and see with Samadarsana, which is seeing with equal vision and being able to see that we are all the super souls in all of our hearts. We are all part of Krishna. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's all that matters when we relate with people. We don't have we don't have to um, you know, agree on the material level with everybody because actually that's not even possible. We will if we relate on a material level, there will always be problems because it's temporary and imperfect. Well, it's perfect in the ultimate sense, but it's full of faults. Humans have the propensity to err, and we make mistakes, and we also don't see the whole picture. And so when there's like billions of people on a planet that have that same conditioning, then you know, if we don't dig deep and relate on a spiritual level, that's literally all that's gonna happen. There's gonna be disagreements, wars. Um, yeah, just it's not a good situation. And Prabhupada and the sages of our lineage have spoken on this for time and time again. And even Bhaktisiddhanta, his first conversation with Srila Prabhupada was literally about this. Was Prabhupada came and he was a supporter of Gandhi, and um, he came in and he was wearing his like clothes that signified that and whatnot. And when they came in, he immediately said to him, without even hardly knowing his name, is you should preach the message of Lord Chaitanya to the English speaking world. I believe that's something along what he said right away. And Prabhupada said, and Bhai at the time said, how can we like first we have to become liberated from British rule? Who will listen to us, and how will we liberate people if we ourselves are not liberated? And Bhaktisiddhanta said to him, he said, that does not matter. And I'm not speaking verbatim, but he said something along the lines where the whoever's in charge will change, and that does not matter. We continue doing what we do. We continue spreading the message of Lord Chaitanya, whoever is in charge. And you can see, even from the perspective of like who's been in charge in India since Lord Chaitanya came, when Lord Chaitanya was here, there was a even worse situation where the Mughals had invaded a lot of India and they were in charge of a lot of um like many places, especially in Bengal. And and they were persecuted, largely persecuted, um, to a point of killing brahmanas and interrupting religious practices and destroying temples. This happened in North India, in Bengal, um, and that was even a worse situation. And then what did they stop practicing bhakti yoga and spreading the message of Lord Chaitanya and writing literature for us to read? No, they just continued doing that. And it continued into when they were under British rule. And eventually India did get independence, but um, the message, the lesson here is we just continue doing it. Um, and that's our main mission. Um, the other things will fall into place. And it's something I've learned actually. It's like if we actually just focus on the spiritual, all the material will fall into place. And not to say that there's not going to be trials and tribulations, because that's always going to be there. We're in the material world. It's part of life. It's also part of character development. But we will not even be able to survive that if we don't have our spiritual base. So, first and foremost, that's the most important. That's why we're here. That's why we get up early and come to Bhagavatam class. That's why we chant, japa, and discuss with each other and build community together so we can be stronger together and serve together and share together. And we are all in this as a family of bhakti yogis, but also humankind and animals and all living entities. We were all actually connected in this together. And it's up to us who are more self-aware and conscious and who are knowledgeable about the reality of the situation of this life to also help other people. And whatever way we can do that, whether it's in our workplace, or maybe we're a brahmachari, maybe we're going to college, whatever it is, we do what we can and push ourselves a little outside of our comfort zone. Or you can do it a lot outside of your comfort zone, but let's take baby steps. Let's do a little outside of our comfort zone and do something that's going to help other people. And it's also going to help you simultaneously. Just whatever it may be. It could be inviting people over for dinner and just having them over for prasadam and kirtan. Or maybe it's just like spending time with people and sharing your life story and philosophy. It could be very simple things. Actually, I found most friendships I've made in life have been very like just sharing and being casual in the sense of developing a friendship and then them asking questions about your life. And I get a lot of that because I do have a lot of connections in professional world in real estate. And yeah, people were always intrigued if I told them I spent 8 years as a Hare Krishna monk and that I used to travel and I've been to India 8 times. Like it just starts up a whole conversation and they ask why. Yeah. So as soon as people ask that three-letter word, why, the whole gate opens and you can share. But also hearing from them too is important because that opens the door for you to share also when you inquire about their lives and you can feel out where they're at. And yeah, actually the trust is developed through that. And once there's trust there, you can share Krishna consciousness. There is a devotee out there who I met on Warp Tour. She just came to my mind. I was doing this concert tour called Vans Warp Tour, and we are distributing books on it for many years. And um, she was on the tour with PETA 2, which is which is it's basically it's an organization that promotes animal rights. Let's put it simple like that. And they're vegan usually, and they had a whole little crew out there spreading their message. And I made friends with her just like, we were from similar area growing up and knew some similar people and I don't know, just became friends. I honestly never gave her a book. I gave her some cookies. We used to pass out cookies every 2 weeks on the tour, but I just was friends with her. And we had some conversations about life and whatnot from time to time. And then I was in New Vrindavan for Festival Inspiration one time and she was there. Like in front of me in line to get prashadam. And now she's initiated and lives in Canada and is a wonderful devotee. But it's like literally I've passed out so many books to people and you know, like I've distributed over 100,000 literatures and the ones that I actually saw became devotees are the ones that I just made friends with. So very interesting. Yeah, it's not always the case though. This one devotee, um, he called me one day. I didn't know who he was, but he called me one day and told me that I gave his friend a book at a reggae festival in Austin. And I don't remember it, and he barely remembers it himself. It was a reggae festival, so um, but he actually his friend bought it, and he felt like his friend didn't appreciate it as much, so he actually took the book out of his bag when he wasn't looking. And anyway, he called me and he told me he was practicing and he was distributing books himself. And then yeah, he's been doing that, he actually lived as a brahmachari and got initiated for many years. And he called me not too long ago and was, just asking some perspective on things, and just, life in general. But yeah, so sometimes that happens too, but it really is very interesting. It's just getting a little outside of your comfort zone and making an effort. And I think all things start that way, whether it be business, relationships, spreading a message. It all starts with stepping a little bit outside of your comfort zone. It could be a simple baby step and just figuring out what that is to you and then doing that. So, I urge you all to think about that today. Think about what does that baby step look like to you? What is what is that little thing you can do today that takes you a little outside of your comfort zone to impact someone's life in a positive way? I end there. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Very nice class. And whenever people like Shishupal speak, don't listen to Krishna, don't listen to Sahadev. What they're saying is, listen to me, right? It's kind of subtle. They're putting down someone else and over speaking what someone else has to say and putting themselves in a position of prominence. And the whole idea of respect, Prabhupada tells us we should respect even an ant. We respect everyone. But bringing up the point that Krishna is the most prominent and the highest uh, personality. Uh, Yesterday, Prabhu was giving class and he's talking about how on Harinam, polarization occurs. That people will become, as soon as you try to glorify the Lord, if you weren't doing that, people would just kind of like just go along in their humdrum way. But as soon as we glorify Krishna, then all of a sudden it's, oh, what is this? What is this? What are you doing? How can you chant that whole AM? I can't take it. I don't want to hear that. I can remember being in that quality of consciousness myself. And a friend of mine would try to explain to me something from the Vedas, and I would say, Joe, I don't want to hear it. But somehow or other, yeah, by his perseverance, I began to uh, catch a little bit and a little bit. And then a long time later, when I actually, Krishna arranged that I became a little bit curious about spiritual life, I went to look for him. He gave me more. So it's not to be discouraged just because people reject. We're meant to offer, and then to the extent that they'll listen, maintain that endeavor. And there's a verse in the scripture that says, don't think that my words will go out without bearing fruit. So we're not meant to force anyone, push it down their throat, but we can offer. And it pleases Krishna so much. So we can go on with that. In spite of people who are antagonistic or are not interested, just go to the next person. Right? What's that thing in the
Appreciate
Bible?
that.
Go on, go on.
Well, I was gonna say that's a real friend,
Yeah.
and there was trust there. And I feel like that's an important thing to have when sharing is to establish trust. Sometimes you can establish trust in seconds, which is a great, beautiful thing, but it doesn't always happen because we're all unique individuals. And yeah, so that what I see there is like there's trust and your friend had compassion and wanted to share. He could have said nothing, you know, could have could have said nothing. That would be horrible. Now, imagine that if he decided, I'll just let him figure it out. So, yeah, thanks for sharing, Prabhu. That's wonderful. I also had a friend like that. Um, A Manjari.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for your class as Ananda Manjari Devi Dasi. I wanted to reflect a point that like really touched me, which is and especially because it comes from your experience of somebody who was, so dedicated to spread literature of the acharyas, how a simple like human gesture of kindness and even like a remote desire to be friendly with somebody else can have such a beautiful impact on others. And in a way, it also reminded me how we need relationships and relationships with devotees if we can truly have them. That's like the closest or one of the ways in which we can also feel closer in our relationship with Krishna. And
Mm,
so that that is just like a very strong reminder, and it in a way also brings me to be aware that our actions, like in a way, our embodied daily small actions have so much or can have a possibility to have so much impact upon others. And so that maybe is even that question of like leveling up or taking one more step into the discomfort of being more aware of like the little things that we do outside of the big things. Um,
mm, mm.
so yeah, thank you so
That's a
much.
good point. I like what you said just then, actually. The little things matter. And that is actually, I've been having this discussion even like when it comes to like a hospitality experience. The little things actually make it a luxury experience, right? Like the difference between like mediocre and luxury are little things. So, to a large degree at least. And friendship, it's funny, I'm just correlating that with discussions I've had lately. And like yeah, friendship and trust and just showing by example a lot of there are little things people appreciate and people notice And the world is full of mediocrity or less than mediocrity. And um, if you can be your wonderful devotional self, that breaks the whole framework of the average. You know what I mean? Like you automatically become interesting because those little things make you different. And it's natural, actually. It's actually not hard to do. It's just being your real self and showing that and truly expressing yourself. Yeah, it's an art. It's an art of a devotion is an art. And it's the interesting thing about art is we are artists, all of us, and Krishna is the supreme artist. And so we channel Krishna's wonderfulness through our creation of our day or creation of whatever we do. And yeah, those little things, if you read the pastimes of Krishna, a lot of those little things that Krishna does also attracts his devotees, like little ankle bills. It's such a little thing, but it's so enchanting. And the devotees meditate on those. So, yeah, it's a really good point. I appreciate you sharing that. Anyone else have something to share or a question to ask or anything of that nature? Dick. Oh, Haribol. Go ahead. I think I know who this is.
Maybe sure.
Haribol, Prabhu.
You're my Facebook friend. Recognize.
Yeah, we've met in person many times too.
Yes. Reading something yesterday which really caught my eye. It was like a epiphany because I've had so many problems and doubts and confusion about whether I'm the doer, who who uh, who is actually the preacher or who is the how can I reconcile the dichotomy between motivation and non-motivation? Sometimes I think, oh, I've got to really buckle down and preach Krishna consciousness, and then I think, well, that's my motivation. I just have to really depend on Krishna, and this has been a dichotomy for me for a long time. But I read something in this Bhakti Sandarbha. I just wanted to share this because it has to do with kind of reconciling those two ideas. This is from Bhakti Sandarbha, I think chapter 7 of the the part 7 of the first chapter. It goes, the word akartu literally means, quote, one who is not a doer. This has a double connotation here. First of all, because he has offered his self to the Lord, he is no longer concerned with performing actions related to his own sustenance. Secondly, whatever action he performs as bhakti to the Lord, he does without ego or without any sense of being the doer, because he understands his dependence on the Lord. The compound samadarshanat, quote, one who sees equally, end quote, means one who desires the welfare of others as much as his own, because he regards all beings as a residence of the Lord. That's Lord Kapila Dev's instruction in the third canto. And I just commented on this. I said, I find in this paragraph the complete Siddhanta of the practical mindset that, number one, enables a state of continuous unmotivated surrender and simultaneously and paradoxically motivation for preaching. And number two, the golden rule: treat others as you would yourself. This brilliant thing I've seen in a long time. It eradicates so many of my own doubts and confusion.
That's beautiful, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, certainly we are channels of Krishna's doing. I believe the days that I was distributing lots of books, for example, I really didn't feel like it was me, but I was a willing doer. I put effort there to do it. And then Krishna just worked through it. So it's a little bit of both, I think. And as far as preaching goes, Prabhu, I think you're probably one of the most intelligent preachers because you have all these audiobooks preaching the glories of the Lord and all of the literatures of our acharyas. And so you can be doing whatever you do in life during your daily practice, and people who listen to that are hearing your voice and getting that benefit. So I feel like that's actually such a wonderful way to share knowledge to so many people is have a product of like that, like a digital product that a lot of people can read or listen to in your case. So I think that's honestly, you could be sleeping and making spiritual advancement in that regard.
Yeah, one thing is that nobody reads books anymore, and nobody even listens to audiobooks. I mean, I've got a few people that listen on off and on, but I was reading something in Servant of the Servant by what's his name, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and he wrote a thing called. He wrote in one of his chapters that the audio visual aspect of Krishna consciousness can also be employed in Lord Chaitanya's movement. So everybody watches TikTok and YouTube, and so I kind of like a part-time or part retired, you know, and so but I do drive for Uber, and so I have a screen in the back like you have for kids.
Yeah, yeah, on the back of the seat. Yeah, yeah.
And so they're kind of like sitting ducks in the back in the back Uber, you know. And so, you know, open the grand reopening of the Kirtan Center, I invite them there. I'll give them a cookie and prasadam cookie, and that way, you know, they get some direct audio visual. So that's also can be used for Krishna consciousness.
Prabhu, you're a great example of using your intelligence to spread Lord Chaitanya's movement, no matter what. Like,
No, audio visual is when you show them the cookie. That's audio visual. When you give them the cookie, that's a whole other level. That's very, very tangible.
Yeah. Weapon.
Yeah.
He doesn't just show them, he gives them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it goes beyond visual. And I saw Das
I love
Prabhu
that.
smiling when you talk Brajananda Prabhu about learning while sleeping. I saw Das Prabhu relating to that.
Well, that's honestly, I hear what you say about audiobooks and books, but I can tell you there's a lot of people who still listen to audiobooks and read books. So I wouldn't I mean, I'm
Yeah.
part of a lot of self-development communities too, and I can tell you those are huge communities, and people are constantly like people who are in that mindset are constantly reading something. Like I have friends that read 2 or 3 books a month, and I have friends who do an audiobook a week. And you know, yeah, so don't get discouraged. Not everyone's just scrolling TikTok out there. They're doing that too, but not everyone. Yeah.
Go on TikTok,
Okay.
Shikshashtakam Prabhu.
Yeah. We want to see like
We're all
Shik talk.
that we might reach some. I think that says it in the Bible. We're all things for all people, might reach some.
Okay, thank you, Brajananda Prabhu. Darshan time, please. Cameras on if you can. This is our TikTok moment.
TikTok.
Yeah.
Shri Radha Murida Goda Chanjan Sri Bhagavan Ki Jai. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. Brajananda Prabhu, thank you very much for such a wonderful, blissful class. You're living up to your name. I think it's because of your name, Braj Ananda, Vrindavan Bliss. And we have so many Anandas in audience. Anandi and Donald, Premananda Vilas, Ananda Manjari, Bhimananda is here in class. We're all in bliss. Okay. A question, Brajananda Prabhu, question. Is
Sure.
our relationship, our families, our loved ones, is that material realm or spiritual realm? For example, if I chant my rounds with burning tears and I read books all day and I distribute cookies, doing my work, and will that improve my relationship at home without me necessarily doing much for my relationship? My wife needs a new sari, for example, and I just tell her that, you know what, it will line up eventually. It will fall into place. Your sari will fall into your lap, but I'm going to chant, and maybe sari will come, maybe not, but let me chant. Is that a misconception? And if things do line up following our spiritual commitment, when does that happen? How does that happen? And does it really,
Well,
without us addressing the things at home?
That's a good question. I believe that maybe that happens for some people, but not for most of us. And I don't think we can depend on things just working out. We have to have a plan. And it is our responsibility if we do have family that we need to make sure they're provided for. Um, we need to make sure that we make it happen if it needs to happen. Um, I've spent many years studying and developing businesses and such. And honestly, I've had a great time doing it. Not to say there's not anxieties there, but I just am I personally just lean into this phase of life and say, hey, this is the time to develop, this is the time for, all kinds of development. There's a season for everything, and I I can speak just for myself that this season is the season for development and growing wealth and sharing wealth and building a more quote unquote material life. But actually, it's not material if you have spiritual consciousness. It is very important that we always remember that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about work. Krishna talks about karma to a large degree in Bhagavad Gita. The whole part of Bhagavad Gita is like him convincing Arjuna to do his duty, which Arjuna is mistaking to be material. I think we often forget about that. We literally have a whole book about it, and it's the first book we usually read. And I think it's important for us to realize that it's all there in that book.
Yeah.
We can read all these other books and whatnot and get all caught up in Leela and whatnot, but
Yeah,
actually,
yeah. Brajananda, there's a story in Chaitanya Charitamrita where Lord Chaitanya or someone asked this devotee, so when do you work? You're always preaching, you're always chanting. When do you work? And the guy just clapped 3 times.
oh, Srivas,
Sh-
that's Srivas. That's Srivas. That's
Yeah. So
Srivas.
how do we understand
He's
that?
different. He's
Yeah,
different.
Krishna tells Arjuna, Arjuna, you need to fight. And Arjuna just claps 3 times and no, the whole war is lost.
Srivas is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
We can't imitate Srivas Thakur.
Yeah.
I also I challenge any of you all, if you can do the clap thing and it actually work,
Yeah.
then and not inherit a bunch of money during that time, then
Yeah.
then we'll talk about maybe that's a good
Yeah.
Grihasta program for you. But um I think it's
No.
important to also realize that there is a Krishna element to everything, and you can endeavor as hard as you want, and maybe things don't work out in your favor, or maybe you depend on Krishna and pray to Krishna, and Krishna just makes it all happen for you, like whether it be opportunities or yeah, kind of magical things. I mean, we've also heard stories where magical things happen, like with in San Francisco, with money flying down the street and them being able to pay for everything because of that. Like, I have no doubt those things happen and they can happen, and I honestly wish that's something I could just teach, but I don't feel like I can just teach that because
So you said it was that.
it's special circumstances, So I believe we have to make an endeavor out there, like Arjuna, right? Like he had his dharma as a warrior. That was his varna and ashram. And it's better that we perform our duties. And even Krishna says, I perform my duties, and I'm the supreme person of Godhead. And if I didn't, then no one would listen to me, right?
Yeah.
Krishna himself says that. And Krishna did perform everything. Like he went, even though he's not tied to Varna or ashram, he did it anyway, just to show us, hey, I do this even. Lord Chaitanya did the same thing. We can't imitate at the same time. I think a lot of human condition is black and white thinking and
Yeah.
dualistic. Rarely is most of life and what goes on in life is not black and white. There's a lot of variables and there's a lot of in between. There's a lot of gray. Achintya Beta Beta Tattva is a great example of that. Like we're inconceivably one and different with the Lord. It's not we're not the Lord and we are or we are the Lord. It's yeah, we're a little bit of both. We are both, and we can't conceive it. And so that's really a lot of life in my experience through reading Shastra and living a life that the there's hardly a black and white um, situation. And I think it's important for us to and yeah, to get I think it comes from broad-mindedness. Developing broad-mindedness is that you can start to see um, you can start to see how things are not black and white, and things there's many variables, and um, yeah, you start to get a bigger picture, right? And it's like usually in the neophyte stage, things are very black and white. Things are very right or wrong. Things are very rigid in the sense of in the mental state. Um, and not to say that we shouldn't be strict or whatnot. That's not what I mean. But I believe that there is more to consider than just, our black and white condition thinking.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Yeah, the key is to do our duties in family, work, in Krishna consciousness, and wait for the Krishna element to kick in patiently and humbly. And usually Krishna comes through every single time. If you look back, if I look back in my life, it just brings me to tears. How many times Krishna backed me up and pulled me up and worked in my life miraculously through devotees mostly. Devotees, prasadam, books, all
You
those
gotta
things.
shed some tears
Yeah.
every once in a while. And then
Yeah.
Krishna's like,
Yeah.
it's okay, don't worry. I had that
Yeah.
recently, practically, some business stuff. And I know as men, our conditioning is very tied to productivity. We really want to be productive and provide, and we want to we want to get things done. And then after some setbacks and whatnot, then it becomes discouraging. And I feel like it's easy to lose purpose in that sense when things aren't working out. But then I swear I just was like Krishna, like I just literally started talking to Krishna, and it's crazy how like I often tell myself, well, why did I do this earlier? Like things just start to feel lighter and things start to work, tensions start to ease, and
Yeah.
we let go, and we're just like, I can't control everything because we can't. We can control some things, but really we can't control that much. And there's so many things outside of that control that we just have to do our best and surrender, And that was also Arjuna's predicament, right?
Yeah.
Doing his best but surrendering simultaneously. Because ultimately Krishna, he's leaving everything up to Krishna. Like that battlefield um I mean, if you think about it, it's just like the classic stories of any movie or whatever. I mean, this is like the original is outnumbered, out, the fighters on the other side are like incredibly powerful, and, you know, all odds are against them, you know, but they have Krishna on the other side, and they have heart, they have their heart with Krishna, and they win. It's like classic, the original story of being outnumbered and winning, you know. It's like I like Lord of the Rings a lot, and it's like every battle is like that in Lord of the Rings. Like they're outnumbered. There's greater people on the other side in a lot of regards, and they still persevere. So I think that's life with in Krishna consciousness is trusting in Krishna and ultimately giving yourself and the results of your actions to Krishna. And that's Krishna talks about that in the Gita, right? Is the fruits of your labor are not for you, they're for him. So
Yeah.
why are we so attached? You
Yeah.
know, We hear it over it. We've read the book many times. At least I have, still attached. But ultimately, when we have these discussions, I start to think differently. And but and when we reflect, it's like, you know what? It really is true. Krishna is he is the enjoyer, the proprietor, everything. What's the point of even doing all these things if it's not for Krishna? Because I mean, if you really think about it, we're just here for a short time. And these are just the things, the swadharma, right? The things we have to do while we're in the material body. And it's not everything, but it's important, right? Like we still need to do it. It's still important, but it's not everything.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Brajananda Prabhu.
I get passionate about this. Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah, thank you for answering it so thoroughly. Okay, Bhima Prabhu, Bhima Kaviraj. We saw your car briefly. So was that a result of kleppen or hard work?
Happenstance. My wife wanted a new car, and I ended up with her old car, which was quite a step up from a broken down old van. So now I'm hot to trot when I'm on the street.
Nice.
Anyways, as you can see, can you guys see the turkeys in the field
Kinda.
here next to the horses?
Kinda. Yeah. I see little dots.
Yeah. Oh wow, they're that distant. I managed to sneak out here walking behind the horse, sort of like what Indians did to get close to the buffalo. If you walk next to the horse so that you're not seen, you can get really close to your prey, assuming, of course, these turkeys would be my prey. But the one thing that we understand is that you see that, there's God's love, Krishna's love for all the animals. He takes care of the ants. He's taking care of these turkeys. They go about this field and they have to, at times, applied for this. Their son, them. They do have to work for it, though. The birds of the field do have to fly to go get their food. So we always have to know that we pray to Krishna, knowing that he's the supplier, but we work as if we're the supplier. So you pray and understand that Krishna is doing everything, that material nature is Krishna's energy, not ours. And, but you have to work. You actually have to apply yourself. Arjuna had to pull the bowstring. He had to train. This is ways in which Krishna glorifies his devotees. Krishna could clap his hands himself and have a Bhagavad Gita in every home in the nation. And he could gild them in gold so that people pay attention to them. But if these people do not want to know the truth, which is why we're here, then no amount of gilded Bhagavad Gitas will change their mind. So it's all a wonderful big magic show, watching the turkeys fight each other for their hierarchy. It's really wild. Prabhu, you mentioned Lord of the Rings and everything. And, it's funny because we triangulate our faith. We see that goodness wins out. We see that the quest is a heavy quest, that the responsibility is a great responsibility, whether it be to bring the ring to Mordor or to please your wife, right? You take on this responsibility. You take on this vision quest to do what Krishna has given you to do, which is to prove yourself through love. And love is an action word. It's a verb. It's not just this thing. It's an action word. So this is what Krishna wants us to do. He wants us to struggle hard to provide for our family. He wants us, and to do it in his name. That's the one. If your wife and child sees that you're happy supplying, taking care of them, that you're happy doing it, you're not reluctant, you're not thinking, and Krishna will see that, because that's, we go to the temple to look at Krishna, the deity, but Krishna's always seeing us. And he sees us especially when we're dealing with those who are near and dear to us. He's right there in their heart. And that's the true test. Not how many times you wave the chamra, not how many books you distribute. What's the true test is how are you treating those who are close to you? How do you treat people in general? Are you connecting with them? Are you being a transparent via media of Krishna's love and remembering his gift to you? Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Very poetically said. Thank you. Bhima Prabhu is treating his wife so nicely. He took her old car because he understands
I
that.
can say that's better than what I have done.
Yeah.
I usually do the opposite.
No, I'm using my wife's old phone. You know, it's all Bhima. I'm following you, your example, because this is not my wife. It's Krishna's daughter, not my child. Krishna's child.
Mm.
Like Adipusha Prabhu always said, it's not your home. It's Lord Jagannath's home. You're in the servant quarters.
Anybody ever remember that Talking Head song? This is not my beautiful wife. This is not
Yes.
my beautiful house. Water flowing underground. Yeah, we're all on this adventure, and we're given people in our lives. Krishna brings these people. Nothing's by chance. People bring these people, and they'll test us. They'll test us. They'll
Yeah.
rock our world, turn us upside down. They will, especially a wife, because they know you. They know you at your worst, and they'll strip you of your false ego. It will be stripped away. In is that you are Krishna conscious, you don't have much to strip away because you know your heart's pure, and,
Yeah.
of course your actions.
You can't
Are pure. But let's
can't
say you're
fake
not.
much in
Well,
front of
you
your
know
wife.
that wife. No, you can't fake a thing. You can't even fake. You know, might be an illusion about yourself. That's how I exist in the world. I wouldn't be able to exist if I wasn't completely an illusion about myself. But the wife will definitely like say, "Hey, you're an illusion," so and then make you pay for it dearly. But so yeah, we just always have to. That's like remember Krishna and never forget Krishna, and you remember pastimes or to chant Hare Krishna. But if you can see that, especially the trials and tribulations that come at you are literally Krishna at work. You know, going after those demons, those duplicitous demons, the false teacher, the putanas within you, etc., etc. Anyways, I'm rambling. Oh,
Right.
goes a horse. See him running?
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Brajananda Prabhu, finish it off. Say something uplifting. Summarize.
Oh, okay, no pressure here. Well, I just think it's important for us to be humble and to at the same time put ourselves out there to be good examples in the world and to share loving kindness with each other and be a great representation of what Bhagavad Gita talks about and what Srila Prabhupada talks about to the best of our ability
Thank you, Prabhu.
in our own unique way.
Thank you, Brajananda Prabhu.
Yes.
Brajananda Prabhu ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, everybody on this call ki jai, Adipusha Prabhu and his apron crew ki jai. Hare Krishna.